I'm going to get this new engine started today. I've lubricated the cams, so now I need to drop a little oil down the bores and turn the engine over until we build up the oil pressure. So I'll blow out the plug holes with compressed air and I'll pull these plugs out. Now this is the original single electrode plug. We'll use them, get them dirty and oily, and then we'll put the new triple electrode plugs in. So we've got a clean aerosol can cap, fill it up with oil and just pour a spoonful down each bore, and that'll lubricate it in case the pistons are dry and their new piston rings. Just a little bit more in number one. I've fitted the battery mounting and I've charged this battery up. I remade the positive terminal, so let's squeeze it in. They're always such a tight fit, but that's in. These are 13mm nuts and bolts on these terminals. They're a replacement terminal, so they've got good big 13mm nuts on them. I have locked myself out of this car actually by replacing the terminal like that, and the central locking's gone off and locked all the doors, locked me out. So we'll have one last check of the oil. Yeah. And I'll have a check around the engine and make sure there's nothing loose and no rag can get sucked down the inlet manifold or anything like that. I'll jump in the car and check the electrical connections. All seems well, so the plugs are out, so I'm going to give it a good turning over until we build up the oil pressure. So I'll keep my eye on the gauge and wait till it builds up. Well, we got the gauge up to 1.5 bar, so that was good. I had previously filled the oil cooler and the turbo with oil, so that worked pretty well. I've checked things over, everything looks okay, so we'll put these old plugs back in, start the car running on them, and they can get dirty, and then we'll put the new ones in. Now, a box of parts arrives by magic. This is the rotor arm. We'll put that on. Now these are the lovely new plug leads. They did have a sleeve on them with the number 1, 2, 3 and 4, but they were the wrong way around. So the short one was number 1 and the longest one was number 4. So I cut those off. So I'm going to mark them with a felt tip pen, but I've been really careful. I've got the old Dizzy cap which I'm checking against these, so I want to make sure they're in the right place. So I've checked and I've double checked, and they're right now. It's here that I realised that there's a shield fits over the electronics inside the distributor, so I have to pull off the rotor arm to fit that on. As usual, that is just one of several removals and refits that I've had to do. That's a plastic collar which fits in between the distributor cap and the distributor. Well, this is the big moment. Let's jump in the car and see if it starts. Simple as that. I'm doing this voiceover after the event, and that is really how the car started. Steve at ERS has built a lovely, happy engine, and it was happy to get started, but it was downhill from there. The car wouldn't start the same way again, although I adjusted the crank sensor gap and put the radiator on and filled the water to allow the temperature sensor to work. But that is for the next instalment. For now, I'm just very pleased that the engine is running well. The rest is down to electronics and to me. If you own an Integrale, there are three names you need: Tank at your Tank Barrett, Eddie, A&E Car, and Jim at Northwest Integrales. This bracket has just arrived from Jim's Northwest Integrales in Chester. It's a Lancia part, and it's important and valuable, and is sometimes not refitted after a rebuild. This bracket supports the slave cylinder mounting. Well, with the Delta's heavy clutch, the strain can crack the alloy slave mounting. This brace bolts to the gearbox alloy mount and to the captive bolt on the engine mounting. So we'll get this bracket fitted. The 13mm bolt and a 13mm nut on the engine mounting, and then you'll see that there's a clip for the hose as well, which supports the hose. There's a rubber ring supports the hose. So we'll get that fitted, and then we can bleed the clutch. With that fitted now, I'm going to bleed the clutch. I'm going to bleed it the old-fashioned way. I've got a length of windscreen washer hose and a small jam jar half filled with brake fluid. That all hooked up, I've opened the bleed nipple and I'm in the car pumping the clutch. So I can't see that this is blowing air out, but I can feel the clutch pedal coming up, and every time I lift the clutch pedal it can't suck any air back into the system because the tube is in the fluid, so it's only going to suck fluid up. So I'm happy that I've got some feel in the clutch pedal, so tighten up the bleed nipple before you take the hose off. Tighten that up, take the hose off, jump back in the car and try the clutch. Now I can't see it from inside, so you're going to have to shout if it works. Excellent. Thank you for your help there. Let's get this bottle out of the way. Okay, I've got the pipe work on. I've got the pipe work to the oil recirculating back to the sump. There's the vent pipe on. We've got the cover on, tucked in the new plug leads nicely. It was a bit of a squeeze with the rubber at the end because these are a bit bigger, but they're in okay now. Now this is for the P-Berg valve, but on this car there isn't one. There's an aftermarket valve which is adjustable, so that just goes out of there, through there and back the other way. I put I put a new air filter in there and put the air filter box on before I put the intercooler on, so there's just room to sneak the intercooler down here if you're careful. I've put a new rubber ring in there with a locking nut on there, so it doesn't have to be too tight. That's on. Now the little tin can is on with the 10mm bolt fixing it to the gearbox behind. So that's on. That's ready for the radiator or the bottom. I have not put the bottom pipe on yet. I'll stop talking and I'll do that. Other than that, that's not far off. I'm sure there'll be other things will crop up. I've got the battery. I've done the battery lead on there, so that obviously works because it starts. What I've done is I've printed off this sheet so I can see where all the pipes go, and I want to make sure I get them exactly right. So we have one here, and well, there's 2 dabs on that, 2 dabs on that, so that probably shoves in there, but there's another one here flapping about. But I want to make sure I get the pipes in the right place, so I'm going to study this and do it correctly. Everything else is coming together nicely. I'm going to put the radiator on, and I'm fitting new hoses, but I've written on the old hoses which way they went before I took them off, so I can get them right. Got the rubber feet in, so offer the radiator up and get the hoses lined up. Don't forget that hose on the bottom, on there. So that hose comes around that way. So we need to twist that a bit. Just make sure you get them lined up, and then take the radiator off again, and do the Jubilee clips up on the back. Right, I'm going to put my lovely reconditioned radiator on now. We've got the rubber feet in. Put that on there like that. That hose goes on the bottom. Where's the Jubilee clips? Top one. Get a nice one. And the bottom one. Okay, we'll slot them on. Okay. The top one. Come on. They're on. That's clear of everything. I'll do those up and I'll put that one on the bottom. The radiator's secure. There are two rubber grommets under there with nylock nuts on the back, so that's secure. The rubber donuts are on the bottom, and we've got the intercooler in, and we've got the guard on. That top hose was a little bit long, and when you push the radiator in, I've noticed this before, when you push the radiator in, it just crimps up the hose at the first turn. So I've just cut 10 milli off the end, and it's nice now. Oil cooler on, secure the bottom clip there. So what I'm going to do now, change the plugs, put the new triple point plugs in, and fire it up with some water in. I'm going to fill the radiator up with a 50-50 mix, deionized water and green antifreeze. You can see how fouled up that plug is. That's with the oil, obviously, that we started it in. We've got some nice new triple electrode NGKs. Make sure they're tight. The plugs are torqued up to 37, so I've set that to 37. Just check it. Perfect. Excellent. And we'll fit our new plug leads. There were a bit of a squeeze getting them into that one, seal at the end, because they're so the leads are quite fat. So 1, 3. Oh gosh, I'm getting it mixed up as well. Right, 1. Forget that this end is number 1. 2, 3, and number 4. Okay, put that on there, nice and tight. Right, put the top on. and then we'll fire the baby up and get it up to temperature. Get in. We'll leave it here and continue in the next episode. Thank you for watching, and we do wish you all good health and keep safe. Thanks again. Bye bye.